The spotlight burned brighter than the sun, but Elena Harper felt like she was drowning in its glare. For years she'd worn the mask of Hollywood's golden girl, her smile a carefully crafted lie that hid the truth beating in her chest. Tonight, at the Oscars, that mask would shatter and the world would see her for who she really was. Elena stood in her dressing room, the hum of anticipation vibrating through the walls of the Dolby Theater. Her gown, a cascade of midnight blue silk, clung to her frame like a second skin, but it was the weight of her secret that pressed heavier. At 32, she was America's sweetheart, a box office darling whose every role, romantic lead, action heroine, tortured artist, had cemented her as a household name. Her auburn hair was swept into an elegant updo, and her emerald eyes, usually so vibrant on screen, flickered with something raw, fear, hope, and a desperate need to be free. She glanced at the mirror, catching the reflection of Mia Alvarez, her best friend, her confidant, her everything. Mia, 29, stood leaning against the doorframe, her short black hair tousled just enough to look effortlessly cool, her tailored blazer and jeans a stark contrast to the glitz of the evening. Mia's brown eyes locked onto Elena's, steady and unwavering, a silent promise that said, "You can do this." But could she? Could Elena really step onto that stage in front of millions and tell the truth she'd hidden for a decade? "Ellie," Mia said softly, crossing the room to place a hand on Elena's shoulder. Her touch was warm, grounding, a lifeline in the chaos of Elena's mind. "You don't have to do this tonight. We can wait. We can keep waiting." Elena shook her head, her throat tight. "I'm done waiting, Mia. I'm done pretending I'm someone I'm not." Her voice cracked and she turned to face Mia, their faces inches apart. "I love you. I've loved you since that first day on set, and I can't keep acting like you're just my friend. Not anymore." Mia's lips curved into a small bittersweet smile. "I love you too. But this could ruin everything. Your career, your fans, your whole world. Are you sure?" Elena's heart pounded, but her resolve hardened. She thought back to the years of hiding, the staged dates with male co-stars, the tabloid rumors she'd laughed off, the nights she'd cried herself to sleep because she couldn't hold Mia's hand in public. She was tired of it all. Tired of the lies, the fear, the suffocating cage of her own fame. Tonight she would break free, even if it meant losing everything. The knock on the door startled them both. "Ms. Harper, 5 minutes," called the stage manager. Elena took a deep breath, her fingers brushing against Mia's before she pulled away. She straightened, her actress's poise slipping into place, but this time it wasn't a role. This was her truth. The Dolby Theater buzzed with energy as Elena stepped into the wings, the roar of the crowd a distant hum in her ears. She was presenting the award for Best Director, a moment she'd rehearsed 100 times. But it wasn't the award that mattered tonight. It was what she planned to say after. The words she'd scribbled in her journal at 3 a.m., the ones that would change everything. She glanced back at Mia, who stood just out of sight, her eyes shining with pride and worry. Elena's heart swelled. This was for them. For every moment they'd stolen in secret, every whispered "I love you" behind closed doors. For every queer kid out there who felt invisible, who thought they had to hide to be loved. As her name was announced, Elena stepped onto the stage, the spotlight blinding, the applause deafening. She smiled, her trademark charm lighting up the room, but inside her pulse raced. She delivered her lines flawlessly, her voice steady as she announced the nominees. The envelope in her hands felt like a ticking bomb. She opened it, read the winner's name, and handed over the statuette with a practiced grin. Then she paused. The teleprompter blinked, urging her to exit, but she stayed rooted to the spot. The audience quieted, sensing something was coming. Elena's hands trembled, but her voice, when it came, was clear and strong. "I have something to say," she began, her words slicing through the silence. "For 10 years I've stood on stages like this, played roles that made you laugh, cry, and cheer. But the hardest role I've ever played is the one where I pretended to be someone I'm not." The crowd stirred, a murmur rippling through the theater. Elena's eyes found Mia's in the shadows, and she drew strength from that gaze. "I'm gay," she said, the words ringing out like a gunshot. "I'm a lesbian, and I've been in love with an incredible woman for years. Her name is Mia Alvarez, and she's the reason I'm standing here, telling you this tonight." The room erupted, gasps, whispers, a few scattered claps. Elena's heart thundered, but she kept going. I've hidden this part of myself because I was afraid. Afraid of losing your love, your support, my career. But I can't hide anymore. I want to live honestly, to love openly, to show the world that who I am is enough. Tears stung her eyes, but she didn't wipe them away. She let them fall, let the world see her vulnerability. To anyone out there who feels like they have to hide, who feels like they're not enough, you are. You are enough. And you deserve to be seen. The applause started slowly, a few brave souls in the back, then spread like wildfire. Elena stood tall, her chest heaving as the room rose to its feet. Not everyone clapped, some faces were frozen in shock, others in disapproval, but the sound of support drowned them out. She looked at Mia again, and Mia was crying, her hands pressed to her mouth, her eyes alight with love. Elena left the stage, her legs shaking, and Mia was there, pulling her into a fierce embrace. You did it, Mia whispered, her voice thick with emotion. You were incredible. But as they held each other, Elena knew this was only the beginning. The world had heard her truth, but the fallout was coming. The headlines, the backlash, the uncertainty, it loomed like a storm on the horizon. And yet, for the first time in years, she felt free. The after-party was a glittering haze of champagne flutes and forced smiles, but Elena felt like she was walking through a minefield. The news of her speech had spread faster than wildfire, and the room pulsed with whispers and sidelong glances. She clung to Mia's hand, their fingers laced tightly under the table, a quiet rebellion against the eyes boring into them. The Dolby Theater's grand ballroom was a sea of designer gowns and tailored tuxedos, the elite of Hollywood mingling under crystal chandeliers. Elena had attended countless events like this, but tonight was different. Tonight she was no longer the untouchable star. She was the woman who'd bared her soul on live television, and the weight of that choice pressed against her chest. Mia leaned in, her breath warm against Elena's ear. You okay, Ellie? We can leave if it's too much. Her voice was steady, but Elena caught the flicker of worry in her brown eyes. Mia had always been her anchor, the one who saw through the glitz and glamour to the woman beneath. They'd met 3 years ago on the set of Chasing Dawn, a low-budget indie film where Mia worked as a cinematographer. Elena had been drawn to her quiet confidence, her sharp wit, the way she saw beauty in the smallest details. Their friendship had bloomed into something deeper, something neither of them could deny, no matter how hard they tried to keep it hidden. I'm fine, Elena lied, squeezing Mia's hand. I didn't expect it to feel like this. She scanned the room, catching the gaze of a producer who quickly looked away. His lips pursed. Across the table, a veteran actress gave her a tight smile, the kind that didn't reach her eyes. Elena's stomach churned. Had she made a mistake? Had she just torched her career in front of the world? Her phone buzzed in her clutch, and she pulled it out, dreading what she'd find. The notifications were relentless tweets, articles, messages from her team. Her publicist, Claire, had already sent a dozen texts. We need to strategize now. Call me. Elena ignored them, her eyes landing on a tweet from a fan account. Elena Harper is a queen. So brave. So real. Proud. Her heart lifted, but then she scrolled to the next one. Disgusting. She lied to us for years. Unfollowed. The words stung, sharper than she'd expected. Mia noticed the shift in her expression and gently took the phone, setting it face down. Don't do that to yourself, she said firmly. Not tonight. You were honest. You were you. That's what matters. Elena nodded, but doubt gnawed at her. She'd known the risks. Hollywood wasn't kind to those who broke its unspoken rules. The industry loved its stars to be predictable, marketable, safe. Coming out as a lesbian, especially in such a public way, was anything but safe. She thought of the role she'd fought for, the years of clawing her way to the top. Would studios still cast her? Would fans still buy tickets? Or would she be reduced to a headline, a controversy, a cautionary tale? A familiar figure approached their table, and Elena tensed. It was Victor Lang, a powerful director she worked with on her breakout film. His presence commanded attention, his gray hair and sharp suit exuding old-school Hollywood charm. He'd always been kind to her, but now his expression was unreadable. Elena, he said, his voice low. That was quite a speech. He paused, studying her, and she braced herself for judgment. I've always admired your courage on screen. Turns out you're even braver off it. Well done. Relief flooded her, and she managed a shaky smile. Thank you, Victor. That means a lot. He nodded, glancing at Mia with a flicker of curiosity before turning away. It wasn't an endorsement, not exactly, but it was something. A small victory in a night full of unknowns. As the party wore on, Elena and Mia slipped away to a quiet corner of the balcony, the Los Angeles skyline glittering below them. The cool night air felt like a balm against Elena's frayed nerves. She leaned against the railing, and Mia stood beside her, their shoulders brushing. Do you regret it? Mia asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Elena turned to her, taking in the sharp lines of Mia's jaw, the softness in her eyes. No, she said, and this time she meant it. I'd do it again if it meant I could be with you. Really be with you. Mia's face softened, and she reached for Elena's hand, pulling her close. Their lips met in a kiss that was soft, urgent, and full of everything they'd kept hidden for so long. For a moment the world fell away, the cameras, the headlines, the judgment. It was just them, two women in love standing together against the storm. But the storm was coming. Elena's phone buzzed again, and this time she couldn't ignore it. She glanced at the screen, her heart sinking as she read the headline from a major outlet. Elena Harper's Oscar speech sparks outrage. Fans feel betrayed. The article quoted anonymous sources from her team, claiming she'd acted impulsively, against their advice. It hinted at sponsors pulling out, studios reconsidering her for upcoming projects. Mia read over her shoulder, her jaw tightening. They're vultures, she muttered. They don't get it. They don't get us. Elena nodded, but the words felt like knives. She'd known this would happen, but knowing didn't make it hurt less. She thought of her mother, who'd supported her dreams but never understood her truth. She thought of the fans who'd sent her letters, telling her she'd inspired them. Would they still see her as their hero? Or would they turn away like so many others? As the night ended, Elena and Mia left the party, hand in hand, stepping into a world that felt both brighter and more dangerous than ever before. Elena's speech had been a declaration of love, but it was also a battle cry. She'd chosen authenticity over safety, and now she had to face the consequences. The morning after the Oscars, Elena woke to a world on fire. Her phone was a battlefield of notification, supportive messages drowned out by venomous comments, hashtags trending in both praise and condemnation. Elena Harper Brave clashed with Elena Lied, and the internet was a war zone of opinions about her life. She sat on the edge of her bed in her Los Angeles apartment, the city's skyline visible through the floor-to-ceiling windows. Mia was still asleep, her dark hair splayed across the pillow, her breathing steady and calm. Elena envied her peace. Her own mind was a storm, replaying every word of her speech, every face in the crowd, every headline that had exploded overnight. She opened her laptop against her better judgment and clicked on a news site. The article was brutal. Elena Harper's career suicide? Hollywood star risks it all with Oscar night confession. It quoted industry insiders who called her reckless and unprofessional, predicting she'd lose her upcoming role in a major franchise. Another article speculated about her secret girlfriend, splashing Mia's name and photo across the page without her consent. Elena's stomach twisted. She'd wanted to protect Mia, to shield her from this circus, but now they were both exposed. Mia stirred, blinking awake. You're up early, she murmured, sitting up and rubbing her eyes. She noticed the laptop and frowned. Ellie, don't. You'll drive yourself crazy. Too late, Elena said, her voice hollow. She turned the screen toward Mia, showing her the article with her photo. They're dragging you into this. I'm so sorry. Mia's expression hardened, but she reached for Elena's hand. I knew what I was signing up for. We're in this together, okay? They can write whatever they want. It doesn't change us. Elena wanted to believe her, but the weight of the world's judgment was crushing. She thought of her childhood in a small Ohio town, where being different was a sin whispered about in church pews. She'd escaped to Hollywood to become someone else, someone bigger, someone loved. But now that love felt conditional, fragile, ready to shatter with one wrong move. Her phone rang and Claire's name flashed on the screen. Elena hesitated, then answered. Claire, you need to get ahead of this, Claire interrupted, her voice sharp. The media's spinning it like you lied to your fans for years. We need a statement, an interview, something to control the narrative. And we need to talk about Mia. People are digging into her life, her job, her family. It's a mess. Elena's heart sank. What kind of statement? I said what I needed to say last night. Claire sighed. Elena, you dropped a bomb on live TV. Fans feel betrayed because you hid this for so long. You need to explain why. And you need to decide how much you're willing to share about Mia. The press won't stop until they get blood. Elena glanced at Mia, who was listening intently, her jaw tight. I'll think about it, Elena said, and hung up before Claire could argue. She turned to Mia. They want me to do an interview. To explain myself. But I don't know if I can keep dragging you through this. Mia leaned forward, her eyes fierce. I'm not hiding, Ellie. I'm not ashamed of us. If you want to do the interview, I'll be there with you. We'll face it together. Elena's throat tightened, and she pulled Mia into a hug, burying her face in her shoulder. I don't deserve you, she whispered. Yes, you do, Mia said firmly. And don't let anyone make you feel otherwise. That afternoon, Elena met with her team at her agency's sleek office in Beverly Hills. The room was tense, filled with publicists, managers, and lawyers, all trying to manage the fallout. They suggested a carefully worded statement, a solo interview, a way to soften the story. Elena listened, her patience thinning, until she finally stood up. No, she said, her voice cutting through the chatter. I'm not apologizing for who I am. I'm not spinning this to make it palatable. If I do an interview, it's on my terms, and Mia's coming with me. The room fell silent. Claire exchanged a look with the head of PR, then nodded. Fine. But it's a risk. You're betting your career on this. Elena met her gaze. I'm betting on myself. That night, Elena and Mia sat on their couch, scrolling through messages from fans. For every hateful comment, there was one of support queer kids thanking her. Parents saying she'd given them hope for their own children. One message from a teenage girl made Elena's eyes sting. I saw your speech, and for the first time I felt like I could be myself. Thank you for being brave. Mia read it over her shoulder and smiled. See? You're making a difference. This is bigger than us. Elena nodded, but the fear lingered. She'd opened a door that couldn't be closed, and the world was watching. She thought of the roles she might lose, the sponsors who'd already backed out. But then she looked at Mia, at the woman who'd stood by her through every lie, every fear, every stolen moment. And she knew no matter what came next, they'd face it together. The interview was set for a primetime special, hosted by a respected journalist known for her empathy and tough questions. Elena and Mia sat side by side in a sleek studio, the cameras looming like judges. Elena's heart raced, but Mia's hand in hers was a steady anchor, a reminder of why they were here. The journalist, Sarah Lynn, leaned forward, her expression warm but probing. Elena, your speech at the Oscars was a defining moment. You came out to the world in a way few have. Why now? Why that stage? Elena took a deep breath, her fingers tightening around Mia's. I'd been hiding for so long, she said, her voice steady but raw. Every day I was playing a role, pretending to be someone I wasn't. I was tired of it. I wanted to live honestly, to love openly. And I wanted to do it in a way that showed others they could, too. Sarah nodded, turning to Mia. Mia, you've been thrust into the spotlight alongside Elena. How has this affected you? Mia's smile was small but genuine. It's been overwhelming, she admitted. I'm not used to this kind of attention. But I'm here because I love Elena, and I believe in what she did. We're stronger together, no matter what the world throws at us. The interview aired to millions, and the response was a tidal wave. Social media exploded with reactions, some calling Elena a hero, others accusing her of seeking attention. But the messages that mattered most were the ones from queer youth, from people who'd felt invisible until her speech. Elena read them late into the night, tears streaming down her face, Mia's arm around her shoulders. But the backlash was relentless. A major studio dropped Elena from a high-profile project, citing scheduling conflicts, though everyone knew the real reason. Sponsors pulled their deals, and her social media was flooded with hate. One particularly vicious article dug into Mia's past, twisting her life as a working-class Latina into a narrative of opportunism. Elena's anger burned hot, but Mia remained calm, her strength a quiet force. They want to tear us apart, Mia said one night, as they sat on their balcony, the city lights sprawling below. But they can't. Not if we don't let them. Elena nodded, but the fear lingered. She'd always known Hollywood was a machine. One that chewed up anyone who didn't fit its mold. She'd seen it happen to others, actors blacklisted for their politics, their identities, their refusal to play the game. Now it was her turn. But there were glimmers of hope. A young director, openly queer, reached out to offer Elena a role in an indie film about a lesbian couple navigating life in a small town. The script was raw, honest, the kind of story Elena had always wanted to tell. She accepted immediately, and for the first time in weeks, she felt a spark of excitement. She and Mia began to rebuild step by step. They attended a charity gala for LGBTQ+ youth, their first public appearance as a couple. The cameras flashed, but this time Elena didn't flinch. She held Mia's hand, her head high, and when a reporter asked if she regretted her decision, she smiled. "No," she said firmly. "I regret the years I spent hiding. I'm done with that." The gala was a turning point. Allies in the industry began to rally around her, actors, writers, producers who'd been inspired by her courage. A major streaming platform approached her with an offer to produce a documentary about her journey, a chance to tell her story on her terms. Elena hesitated, wary of exposing more of her life, but Mia encouraged her. "This is your chance to take back the narrative," Mia said. "To show the world who you are, not who they want you to be." Elena agreed, and the project became a lifeline. She poured her heart into it, sharing the pain of her years in the closet, the joy of her love for Mia, the hope she had for a more inclusive future. The documentary was raw, unflinching, and deeply personal, and when it premiered at a film festival, it received a standing ovation. But not everyone was ready to move on. Elena's mother, who'd been distant since the Oscars, called one evening, her voice trembling. I don't understand, Elena. Why did you have to tell the world? Why couldn't you keep it private?" Elena's heart ached, but she stood her ground. "Because I'm not ashamed, Mom. I'm proud of who I am. I'm proud of Mia. I wish you could see that." The call ended in silence, and Elena cried in Mia's arms that night. But even in her pain, she felt a quiet strength. She was living her truth, no matter the cost. A year after the Oscars, Elena stood on a different stage, accepting an award from an LGBTQ+ advocacy group. The room was filled with activists, artists, and allies, their applause warm and genuine. Mia sat in the front row, her eyes shining with pride, and Elena felt a peace she hadn't known was possible. The past year had been a crucible. She'd lost roles, sponsors, and some of the people she'd thought were friends. But she'd gained so much more: a community that embraced her, a career that felt authentic, a love that grew stronger every day. The documentary had been a critical success, sparking conversations about representation in Hollywood and inspiring countless others to live their truth. Elena's speech was short but heartfelt. "I used to think being loved meant hiding who I was," she said, her voice steady. "But I've learned that real love for yourself, for others, for the world starts with being honest. Thank you for showing me that I'm enough, just as I am." As she stepped off the stage, Mia was there, pulling her into a hug. "You're incredible," Mia whispered, and Elena laughed, her heart full. They left the event hand in hand, stepping into a world that wasn't perfect but was theirs. The headlines had faded, replaced by new stories, new scandals. But Elena's truth remained, a beacon for those still finding their way. She thought of the girl who'd written to her after the Oscars, the one who'd said she felt seen. That was worth everything. Later that night, as they sat on their couch, Mia turned to her, a playful glint in her eye. "So what's next, superstar? Another Oscar speech?" Elena laughed, pulling Mia close. "No more speeches. Just us living our lives, loving each other. That's enough." And it was. For the first time, Elena didn't need the world's approval. She had Mia, she had herself, and she had the courage to keep going. The future was uncertain, but it was theirs to shape together.